It's a weekend in 2010, and you just can't wait to hop on Roblox, a website so full of charm, colors, and simple, fun games. What better game to fill that void of free time than make a cake and feed the giant noob? It's simple. Step 1, make a cake. Step 2, feed the giant noob. Is that really it? Well, yeah, really, that's it. But how could this gameplay loop be successful enough to evolve through Roblox's landscape for over a decade? Well, think about it. Simple and fun. On July 1st, 2008, BenjasCool98 joined Roblox, a site where he could enjoy countless games created by users just like him. Shortly after he joined, he produced a couple games of his own, namely It's Raining Cake, a game about literally running around and grabbing cake to collect points for shop items, and Epic Cake Tycoon, a tycoon fully themed around cake, both in 2009. Simple and fun. And cake! Make a Cake and Feed the Giant Noob was initially created on June 4th, 2010 by thebenster, the alt account of BenjasCool98 due to the old Roblox place limit. Ben thought of the concept after playing Make a Pizza by Gojira34 that same year, a game that had the basic premise of moving dough block through 3 machines to make pizza. If you wanted to, you could even become a pizza monster by walking through the machines yourself. Seem familiar? Ben took some time to think and eventually created a mock-up of a slightly extended version of the same concept, but had to figure out how to make it original. Due to old Roblox's limitations, you couldn't actually upload your own meshes to the site. For this reason, Ben was stuck choosing food items that had meshes already uploaded to the site. When it comes to food item meshes available in 2010, they're few and far between. He decided to take the meshes of the impossible to obtain red wedding cake from 2009 and the cake hat from 2008. On release, the game's features were extremely limited. I was lucky enough to talk to the benster himself about the initial release of the game and see what he had to say.
This is the first version of the game. The shop was just buttons. There's no... These were the first items of the shop. I'm like, yep, this sounds about right. Then there were 4 stations. The first station was, we still had the dough shaper station. That's what I called it back in the day, because it turned this square into a circle. Then we had the sugar and flour station. It recolored the circle into a white circle. And then we had the kind of like a mixing station, so to speak, right here. And then I didn't have a frosting station. The baking station and the frosting station used to just be one. Wow. I didn't have Builders Club, so I couldn't upload VIP. So the first versions did not even have a VIP.
Oh.
So VIP was just free.
So to break it down, there were only 4 stations, the Giant Noob, a small shop, VIP, and a singular cake combination, the vanilla cake. This was the easy solution because the vanilla cake texture was already supplied by Roblox. Like I said at the start of the video, this was really just it. Shortly after the game's inception, Ben raised 5,000 ticks from the old currency conversion system that existed on Roblox at the time, and he put his money right into advertisements for Make a Cake. I asked Ben for some of these original ads just for visual sake, but it turns out they actually had some history too. The initial set of ads for the game were made in what looks like Microsoft Paint or something, and they have an extremely basic font, as well as featuring the original name of the game, Make a Cake, then Feed It to the Giant Noob. A little later on, the custom font that's still used to this day was introduced. The 4th advertisement featured the additional steps that came later on in development, so he liked to highlight it with there being 5 steps and a highlight of the 36,000 visits milestone at the time. The next series of ads featured Ben dressing up as a noob and using his avatar to set up ads for the game, as it was Feed It to the Giant Noob after all. The last series of ads in 2012 featured a blue gradient and was kind of the definitive style for the initial game going forward. Jackpot! These advertisements netted Ben 30,000 plays in the first month and an instant trip to the front of Roblox's games page. As a celebration for 33,333 plays on the game, Ben added a confetti cannon. This quickly became a staple item for every entry in the series. The game was sparsely updated through the years of 2010 through 2012, with small but very iconic features that would return in the later entries to the series. This included a control room, a mini obby, the cake museum, new frostings, a topping station, new baking temperatures, and more. By this time, Make a Cake had gotten Ben around 250,000 visits. But what happened after? Well, nothing. For a couple of years, Ben's focus was on other Roblox projects, as Make a Cake was more of a learning experience rather than a passion project. One example is the game Destroy the Neighborhood, which is developed by him and his brother, just joshing it. Because Roblox wasn't that big of a deal to Ben at the time, he took a break for a year to focus on life. You know, touching grass. In April 2015, Ben returned to Roblox to check on the platform he grew up on. What he ended up finding just shocked him. Make a Cake and Feed the Giant Noob had over 1.5 million visits and 300 concurrent players. Ben had a hit on his hands this whole time and he didn't even know it. The only natural course of action was to work on updating the game to provide an even better experience. However, pretty quickly it was clear that this project was too large to serve as just an update. In May of 2015, after realizing the true scope of the next step, Ben started development on Make a Cake Back for Seconds. Once October came along, the game was around 75% done, completely solo. Luckily, Ben managed to find other talented developers that were willing to help out with the project by literally just meeting some of them in some Roblox games. Bringing in others to help with the project meant including more features and extra polish. The skills of developers that were highly focused in areas Ben wasn't as familiar with, like UI and music, allowed the production value of the game to skyrocket. This team included Pandy100, who created the game's original soundtrack, which is still updating to this day. The soundtrack is so charming and helps the game develop even more of a unique identity. Spartluck not only gave Ben multiple building tips, but also built some of the more notable models in the game, like the Cakeosaurus Rex and the Pterodactyl. Devi helped redesign the shop and cafe, as well as the lighting used in the game. They also built a few structures, one of them being the very contributor statue that's used to recognize all the game's contributors. Ponyan helped design the very first version of the recipe book, and later down the line ended up working on the soundtrack alongside Pandy100. Repotted created the version 1.0 intro GUI for the game, and also taught Ben how to keep the original Make a Cake and Feed the Giant Noob up to date with Roblox's new filtering enabled policies that broke the game at the time. David83335 is the developer of a game called Taxi Simulator, which helped promote Make a Cake Back for Seconds' release by including a cake drop in his game leading up to the release. Doomans and Seymour Hearts didn't come on board until years after the game released, but I figured I'd include their work here for organization's sake. Doomans created the Flightless Cake, Cake Fish, and Cake Hat in the Cake Museum. He also helped with testing and finding bugs. Seymour Hearts helped the game grow towards the end of its development by rebuilding the stations, obbies, and VIP room to set the groundwork for future additions to the game. Shortly after, she left to focus on the development of Escape Room 2 by Dev Ultra. The team of what would later become Cakebomb Studios would grow as development evolved, but for the time being, this was the dream team. Make a Cake Back for Seconds was publicly released on January 1st, 2016. Instantly, Back for Seconds became the #1 game on Roblox, getting 3 million plays in its first week, nearly 12 times that of the original's entire lifetime. A success only heightened by some of Roblox's biggest YouTubers making videos on the game with millions of views. It's no wonder it was able to do this, as the amount of not just polish, but entire features added to the game with this iteration is nearly infinite. First, let's start with the obvious culprit, the factory itself. Taking inspiration from the Bread Factory and Feed the Giant Noob, the entire factory was rebuilt from scratch in a way far more visually appealing than the eyesore that was the original. A genuine cake creation counter, and tons of badges to track your progress in-game. Batter customization screen where you can fully customize the base batter for your cake. Multiple control rooms that let you interact and change the behavior of the various stations in the factory. The Giant Noob control room was expanded upon from the original game, and now you can fully edit not just the Noob's colors, but also hats and other little buttons. Nearly 3 times the amount of frosting and toppings. Not only did these choices exist visually, but they contained various effects that could be activated by eating the finished cake or sharing it with another player. These effects could range from particles, to explosions, to funny faces, and way more. A recipe book that you can fill out as you create more cakes. A completely original soundtrack by Pandy100 and Ponyan. An expanded cake museum detailing artifacts from the original game. The research facility that allowed you to create pets, change the size of cakes, and even combine multiple cakes into one. One of my favorite features in the research facility is being able to release cake zombies into the factory.
Fresh meat.
A fully expanded shop with more gears and an included cafe. A garage with a functioning truck you can take around the facility. These aren't all of the new features, as there are so many little things to find through exploration, but these are a lot of the most notable additions. Hey, that list from earlier isn't looking so small now, is it? Just to emphasize how much of a step up it is from the original, I recorded some gameplay with the Cakebomb Studios team themselves.
Box, but it very much
player life. I like
Right? Like, my favorite thing to do as a kid was to join random servers and clean them up. Find cakes that were stuck in known places that got clogged in or dropped in, and just clean them up. And that was really fun to do in like mid-2019 or like mid-2018 when a glitch with the mix, and then it goes around, and then it goes to this guy, Dr. Swag. Dr. Swag.
That's another
and
thing
now it becomes Fat Mesh, which, by the way, has 4 layers actually, considered on that. And when it goes to this machine, it says...
I really did not want to go through that.
Kind of on the topic of this, right? People keep friending me because I'm at the top of the leaderboard. I got a friend request earlier.
While the pressure was on for Ben to fix the buggy state of the game, the instant success was very rewarding. As the years went by following release, Make a Cake Back for Seconds was tweaked and had small feature additions as time went on. Ben was not only focusing on his other game, Demolition Crew, but also his college degree. Besides a few notable event participations for the game, major updates weren't happening often. However, in the fall of 2018, Ben came back to put some serious work into Back for Seconds as it participated in the Imagination event that was happening on site at the time. It was a pretty basic event. You had to collect 3 ingredients and turn it into some weird looking robot guy, I think, and you would get these rainbow wings, which, lucky enough for Ben, were the most popular prize of the entire event, and I think the game ended up awarding nearly 2 million prizes during that event. This led a massive amount of traffic to the game, giving it 35,000 concurrent players and giving it back that #1 spot on the games page once again. With even just a quick glance, you can see how this game went from just placing cake on conveyors and feeding a noob to an experience that rewards you for your curiosity, exploration, interactivity, and so much more. The game was rapidly becoming something that could keep such a simple gameplay loop alive. It introduced progress checks, save data, and countless new areas and features that you can discover through the simplest and most universal game mechanic of all, exploration. But if Back for Seconds was at a pretty much halted development, what would come next? June 19th, 2021 marked a huge day for Make a Cake. Not only was it the switch from Back for Seconds to being just Make a Cake, but it was the day a live event was held to drop version 3.0, the factory update, by far the largest update in the game's whole 11-year lifetime at this point, taking well over 1,000 hours of straight development time. It was essentially the shift to what modern-day Make a Cake is. This live event held so much value to the game's history as it expanded on the game's lore and had a very positive community reception, which brought 10,000 concurrent users to the game at a time where it was holding just 400 to 1,000. And yes, a game about making cakes has lore. Basically, the staff escaped the original factory because the cafe can fly. After that, some cakeifier explodes, quite literally transforming the entire factory into a cake. The giant noob decides to eat this and canonically dies. He actually just dies, just like this guy. Junior, this dude, decided to rebuild the entire factory and then enjoy a treat. He levels up like times 1,000 and actually becomes the giant noob, so his son replaced him as a factory worker. Now, not only was the entire factory redesigned to be about 2 times larger than the original, but the entire design premise was changed. Every room was now on a separate island, which allowed the game to not only perform better, but also the base factory to have a uniform interior and exterior you could explore. Previously, all of the rooms were directly attached to the factory, which made having an exterior impossible due to the odd shape. Every existing room was redesigned, and the incineration room and arcade were added to the factory.
Oh, hell yeah. Gaming. God damn it.
On top of this, the core stations were also redesigned. There's also a lore hallway, meant to expand upon the lore for the community, that shows a scientist's cryptic entry logs about a cake monster. To go along with the given lore, there's a missing chair at the management table to represent a scientist who went missing. While I don't want to spend a huge amount of time going over contributors and developers again, there's such a massive increase in the amount of contributions some people put into the game, so there are some worth mentioning, some from back for seconds and some newcomers. Devi not only refactored a ton of code, but also built the stations, most of the interior detailing, the new UI, and the incineration room. Pandy100 and Ponyan worked like crazy, bringing the soundtrack's song count up to over 50. I highly suggest you go take a listen in-game or on YouTube. Miss Datsky built the exterior of the factory as well as the outside island terrain that solidified this new style of Make a Cake. S. Francisco coded the brand new arcade minigames. Mischievum designed the new game's logo as well as most of the hand-drawn icons that also became inseparable from the new style Make a Cake was pushing for. Zero built the actual structure of the factory and research facility and would go on to build the cafe, VIP room, sewer, toilet, and texture all of the frostings and toppings in the game. It became really clear that the style that Make a Cake was going for at this point, with the name change to the super simple Make a Cake, the sleek but goofy and colorful factory builds, hand-drawn UI, charming soundtrack, hidden Easter eggs. Really, I couldn't fit it all into a sentence. The only way to really get the idea of how massively this game changed is to play it yourself. It gives off such a new level of charm that started with this initial factory update in 2021. The factory update also introduced Legacy, a perfectly preserved back for seconds from 2019, which allowed me to get the footage for this video. You can join Legacy through the current version of the game. This means that all 3 Make a Cake games are still playable today. Only 8 months later, on February 11th, 2022, really not long at all considering how little the previous games were updated, the Icing on the Cake update dropped. Wow, did this update impress. This update was just as significant, if not more so, than the previous one. Not only was this update massive, but it kicked off with another live event. This featured a 10-minute countdown, and when it was up, the manager opened up the Hall of the True Baker, a reward for reaching level 100 in the new leveling system. Some moron also drops his toxic goo into the factory, which poisoned the giant noob, and then a guy named Demolish just nukes the shaping station to replace it with a new one. I don't know. As I mentioned, this update added a whole new reason to play Make a Cake, levels and ranks. A totally new ranking system was introduced that tracks your progress to level 100, where you get the ultimate rank of the True Baker. Getting here gave you some rewards as well as access to the True Baker's Hall. You could also check out a new Tasks tab to motivate you to focus on specific cakes to make for some bonus XP. There were also some revamps including vehicles and the shaping station, which was totally redesigned visually, which made sitting there to shape cakes for some XP a lot more interactive. The giant noob himself was also revamped to look cleaner and have a whole new set of custom animations and dialogues. Datsky and Devi also totally revamped the noob's control room to fill it with more customization and character. One of my favorite features added here that makes the factory feel so alive is the new event system. Every so often, a little purple exclamation mark appears and a certain event will happen that you can take care of for extra XP and money. For example, the Cakeosaurus Rex breaking and you needing to go fix it. Or even something as simple as a treasure vault appearing behind the cafe with gold for you to steal. Most importantly, the UI was completely overhauled here by Devi, who at this point had gained status as the co-developer of the entire game. This UI took heavy inspiration from all the aspects of Make a Cake that existed at the time. The silly, colorful goofiness, the sleek but fun aesthetic, the handcrafted DIY look, literally everything. It also made use of tons of hand-drawn icons by Mischievum, and loads of buttons and categories you could explore through the new menus. The hand-drawn recipe book by Mischievum was also added, and it had a lot of Make a Cake charm. By this point, it was clear that Make a Cake was moving towards a more replayable and enjoyable experience that still managed to build upon the very rewarding urge for exploration it created years ago. The game was becoming a sandbox that was perfect to visit with your friends where you could just goof around in so many ways. Along the path to the next big update, Make a Cake had their first major collab that they tied in with their winter update, the RoBeats Collab. It dropped on December 17th, 2022, and both developers created special events on their games for their fans to experience as a way to help promote each other. The event ran until January 31st, 2023. RoBeats added 3 newly composed Make a Cake songs that you could play through: Out of This Swirl, Salty Sugar, and the Bubblegum Break. These also got added into the base Make a Cake game. Make a Cake not only themed their whole factory for their winter update, but also scattered 14 music notes around the factory that awarded you a confetti cannon skin upon collection for the RoBeats portion. Overall, the event was simple and helped promote the games to each fanbase. On March 18th, 2023, version 3.3, the Cherry on Top update would be released, which built the scale of Make a Cake sandbox even further. A new progression road map was added where you could visualize your road to the true baker with many prizes and skins along the way. Beyond that, tons of features were added that were quite literally the cherry on top of so many existing ones that felt like they could just be a bit more. Boosts and recipes could now be shared with your friends. Pet sitting was added as a feature which made pets feel way more dynamic as they were unused by most players. Something much needed was that you could now spectate your cakes in real time, which made the cake making process that much more enjoyable. Something always felt off about needing to just place the cake inside the machine and not get to see what was going on. Footstep markers and sound effects made your character feel way more alive. The Ratacombs got added? Ratacombs? The UI had so many cherry on top like features added, like an expanded options screen, the very charming loading and death transition screens, and more tutorials. The tutorials, like everything else this update delivered, feel dynamic and fun. They don't just feel like a boring game tutorial. Now, the Giant Noob was helping you figure out anything you could want to know about Make a Cake. Want to know about the factory's different locations? There you go. Want to know about all the progression features? You got it. The amount of life that managed to be brought to a game that was already so alive with this update was astounding. Cakefest was a holiday update on December 20th, 2023 that had an ultimate goal of the community making a total of 1 million cakes in 14 days to add extra cake flavors to the game. A simple event, but it kickstarted Cakebomb into working on Make a Cake heavily again. Now, as of this video, the Dash of Sprinkles update is the most recent major content update the game has received, released on March 30th, 2024, a slight delay of the initial release time of the 23rd due to the hunt. Is it a major update? Yeah, it's major. Can you believe this? 12 pages! 12 whole pages! The Dash of Sprinkles update focused on keeping the game fresh, but keeping its classic vibe and charm that makes it stand out from the crowd. 4 types of special batter were added, with rare chances to spawn at the batter station. Bomb batter could spawn, and I think the result is self-explanatory. Chaos batter is a huge rainbow reflective cube that quite literally ensues chaos when the noob or you consume it. Midas batter is a large golden cube that gives everyone in the server money when fed to the noob, or selfishly gives money to just the person who decided to eat it instead. Similarly, gift batter is a large green cube. It's blue, it's not green. I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry. That can give everyone XP when fed to the noob. A few boosts and game passes were added, including the all-in-one cake maker, a gun that will instantly transform batter into a cake of your choice. Unfortunately, I can't show you this, because I'm broke. A couple of new badges were introduced as well, which I won't spoil, but I will say the best one is the Raining Tacos one.
It's raining tacos.
3 events were added to the event system directly involving cake making, 1 that spawns chaos batter, and 2 that make the noob demand hot or cold cakes. A new batch system was added, which I can only explain as being similar to something like a combo counter. The more cakes you create in a given time frame without letting it expire, the higher your batch counter will go for the server. This created a whole new community dynamic where people work together to try and achieve high batches to be featured on an in-game leaderboard. The recipe book was totally reworked to contain 100 recipes instead of the initial 50, and new rewards, including a badge for completing them. Eating cakes also had UI detailing what effects were caused by the topping or frosting. Now, obviously the biggest part of this update, the frosting and toppings. This update added a whopping 35 new frostings and 40 new toppings to the game. On top of this, the frosting and topping control room station was totally reworked to be more interactive and intuitive, featuring visual alphabetical sorting monitors to correspond to which selections were active. There were so many small things that were reworked here, like the VIP room, pets, notifications, I really can't go over it all. No, really, I cannot go over it all. Once May came around, the retro event released, inspired by Roblox's The Classic event that was going on at the time. It's actually what inspired me to get around to making this entire video, as it had you visit the old versions of the game and make cakes for some retro-themed skins in the modern game. The amount of contributors to this game by this point is so huge that it would take ages to cover them all in detail, so here's a good list of everyone who's helped out. Finally, we make it to modern day. Thank God. Make a Cake has such a long and deep history that I really can't even begin to go into specific detail anywhere. I can't imagine how long this video could truly end up. I mean, 14 years of history is kinda crazy. I've really come to love any little sandbox feature Make a Cake has that lets you play the game your way. One huge example being that you can choose any frosting in the game to put onto your cake car when you spawn it. I mean, how cool is that? Another great example is being able to create your very own in-game playlist or recipe. After you make them, you can even share them with your friends. Now, I was so fortunate to be able to interview the thebenster himself about the development of the entire Make a Cake series. For viewing purposes, I just included a tiny snippet, but you can click the link in the description to hear not only the full interview between us, but also some thoughts from the co-developer Devi and the #1 ranked Make a Cake player, Mika. If you're a big fan, I'd definitely go check that out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, so I guess I'll just start with the first one. How did you feel when you had that moment of realization that you'd be creating a complete sequel to a game that blew up completely under your nose?
So, for me, like I mentioned earlier, I took a hiatus from Roblox or anything like that for most of my time in high school. I made the first version of Make a Cake when I was a middle school student. And so I kind of let it do its own thing for a while. I quit Roblox for a while, just figuring out what I want to do in high school. And then I came back after a year or two of just total inactivity. And I noticed that Make a Cake had like 2 or so million plays. And that surprised me a lot. Because I'm like, this is this weird little cake game I made that I had a lot of fun with, but this is the one that's standing the test of time right now. And I made that when I was in middle school. I could do a lot better than this. And so I decided to revisit it as a junior or a senior in high school. I'm like, okay, I know a little bit more about game dev at this point, nothing too fancy, but I could definitely do a lot better than 12 or 13-year-old me did a while back. And so when I started doing some drafts of like how I wanted me to update machines or add a little more content, it became apparent to me really quickly that this isn't going to be an update for Make a Cake and Feed the Giant Noob. This will have to be its own new thing. And so I called it Back for Seconds because I came back after a few years like, let's do this again. And I made sure while I was doing the development for that I titled the game with like X% done on it. So when it first started, like, hey, it's 15% done, it's 20% done, it's 30% done, and so on. So then the community who were still involved in Make a Cake at the time had an idea of kind of my progress on it. It took about, I'd say, about 7 months or so to complete. I think I did the first like development version, like I started working on it in May of 2015. And then we had our launch date on New Year's 2016.
Yeah, wow. It's just an insane story. I can't imagine that like stomach drop when you just log on and you see numbers like that. It's not something you'd ever think could happen.
No, and I never thought I'd be known as the cake guy or the person who made a cake game on Roblox, because I made a bunch of other games on my other accounts back in the day. Like I made some zombie games, I made some tycoon games, I did some obstacle courses. I was a huge fan of Super Mario, so I had a lot of Super Mario games I had to pull down for copyright reasons. But Make a Cake was just a side game I wanted to make really quick on the thebenster, which used to be my alternate account. It's like, okay, let's just make this little side thing because it sounds kind of fun, why not? And then it just slowly became the biggest game that I own. And so I'm like, well, I guess this is where my future lies right now on doing content updates or just be able to grow a community on things. And so it took me a bit, but I soon embraced the fact like, okay, I guess I'm just known as the Make a Cake guy.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to work out for you, so I don't know, that's good.
I'm very grateful and content.
I think the biggest takeaway of Make a Cake is that over the last 14 years, it slowly turned into a sandbox game that you can enjoy your way. You can make cakes, play arcade games, play obbies, explore a museum, drive cars, mop the floors, create pets, blend cakes together, blow people up, experiment with cake effects. I mean, this list isn't even half of what you could do in this game now. There are also just so many small Easter eggs that I think it's impossible to find them all unless you're a developer. I would have never known that if you shrink yourself down in the research facility, then jump down the sink in the cafe, you'd go to the sewer. Unless AJ, the community manager, told me so. He even admits himself that even he finds new stuff every now and then. I think I should give a special shout out to AJ for being such an awesome dude to talk to. He actually reached out to me to offer any assistance I needed in finding accurate history, as well as putting me into contact with the lead developers Ben and Devi, and moderators of the game so they could help me tackle parts of the game I wasn't so sure of, as well as review history to make sure it was all correct.
Greetings, I'm AHW20, and I've been a part of Cakebomb for about 4 years now. Being the head of community management, my job entails listening to people in order to represent the greater Cakebomb community when it comes to workshopping with the developers and proposing ideas for our games. Like most fans of Cakebomb, Make a Cake was my childhood, which is why it's an honor to be in this position. My position allows me to help the team ensure that Make a Cake continues to appeal to veteran players despite all the changes we make to help engage with the new generations of Roblox. Our hope with all this is for Make a Cake to continue to stand out in modern Roblox as a place where kids can create childhood memories, all while encouraging people who've had those memories to come back and revisit them again from a new perspective. When people ask me what makes Make a Cake so special, I tell them it's the love and passion that comes from everyone who's been a part of the staff team. In a way, it's like a big cake. It's warm, it's sweet, it's nostalgic, yet still with a lot of layers and something for everyone to enjoy. It's as simple as that.
I should also give my thanks to Ben and Devi, as they really overlooked everything and gave me some great developer insight. Make a Cake has something special going. Nothing I've covered in this video could even come close to how the experience feels yourself. Messing around with all the little features or working to reach true baker status is so insanely fun, and inviting friends to goof off with you only makes it better. I see like a granny spinning around, bro. The game has been crafted in a perfect way that allows sharing of all of its features. Just to name a few, you can share cakes, pet sit, drive cars together, use gears on each other, like it's crazy. It's unfortunate that Roblox has done so many things to push this game to the side, like holding the hunt during one of its major updates, or not even inviting the game to join the classic event. I highly suggest all of you to go play Make a Cake, even just for a few minutes, to get any of that experience for yourself. I know for a fact there's so much I missed in this video, so please, go and explore yourself and see what you can manage to find. I mean, there's even a whole community-run wiki to really look for some detail. A game with this amount of detail and effort deserves far more than a few hundred concurrent players. I also really suggest you all reach out to the Cakebomb community server, as they're also welcoming and receptive to those who want to enjoy their game. I owe a big thanks to the Cakebomb team for helping me with this video by not only telling me loads of information, but actually playing the game with me while they explain some history. The team also gave me free cam privileges in all 3 versions of the game, which really helped with footage. They're really a great group of people. I don't think anyone could have expected a game about making a cake through 6 stations to have such an expansive history, but it does, and quite frankly, that's what makes it so special. That's been it for now. Go make a cake or something. See ya!